A new transitional council was sworn in Haiti Thursday, formalizing the resignation of Prime Minister Ariel Henry. They take on the daunting task, though, of restoring order in the country amid escalating gang violence and political unrest. Haiti's finance minister will serve as interim prime minister until a new one is appointed. So I want to bring in Robert Fatton to talk more about what's going on in Haiti. He's a professor of government and foreign affairs at the University of Virginia. Thank you so much for joining us. So let's talk about this transitional council. It's a tall order, and as I understand it, they already had to move their swearing-in ceremony to another location because there were concerns for their safety. What is it that they are being tasked to do, and who's part of this council?
Well, you essentially have 9 members and you have 7 voting members. The 7 voting members represent different coalitions of political parties and civic associations. And you have 2 non-voting members who are essentially part of civil society. Now that the council has been installed, they have indeed a monumental task. In the first place, they need to pick a president, and the president has to be picked from the 7 voting members. And then they need to take another vote to pick a new prime minister. After that, obviously, you need to form a cabinet, and then the really difficult task starts. They have to reestablish order. They've promised that they will do so. They promise also a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to try to deal with criminal activities and financial crimes. They have also the hard task of picking a new electoral council, which will be indeed engaged in the organization of elections before February 7th to 26. So you have a very long and complicated road. And the added problems are obviously, what do you do with the gangs? What do you do with armed men? What do you do about the economy? What do you do about the displaced people? Something like 300,000 people have been displaced in Port-au-Prince because of the violence. There's a food crisis. So it is really a monumental task. And you have divisions within that presidential council. And some of the members of the presidential council were members of past governments. So some people do ask, how can we expect a different result if the very same people are part of the government? Now, in an optimistic note, it looks like the presidential council is united. And I hope that we will see, in fact, an easy transition to the formation of a new cabinet, the election of a new president, and obviously a new prime minister.
And as I understand it, as you point out, I mean, the members of this council, they run the gamut in terms of political leanings from the very, very left to the very, very right, people who don't always see eye to eye. But then there are the gangs. What are we hearing from the gangs? I had heard a report that at least one gang leader wanted to be involved in these conversations. Is there a place for gangs in the middle of this whole thing?
Well, it's going to be a complicated business because you can't ignore the gangs. On the other hand, they've committed atrocities. So the question is, how do you reintegrate at least the youngsters who are part of the gangs, and what do you do with the leaders? Now, the gangs have said that they will continue to attack the institutions of the country. In other words, they are prepared to fight, supposedly, the foreign mission, which is allegedly coming in the next few weeks. So you may have more violence. On the other hand, the gangs seem to have overextended their power, and that may mean that the police and the army in Haiti can maybe retake the initiative, but that will require significant more training, more weapons, etc. And then you have the mission, the international mission, which is supposed to be headed by 1,000 officers from Kenya, some officers also from Benin, and some from Jamaica. So we'll have to wait and see. But the situation at the moment is quite critical.
So you brought me to sort of the last question I was going to ask you about. Is there still a desire to have outside forces come into Haiti to help to stabilize things in Port-au-Prince?
Well, the Presidential Council has signed on the idea of a foreign contingent of officers. Many Haitians are worried about another international intervention because in the past, those interventions have essentially failed and they have led to the current crisis. So there is some apprehension about a new intervention. On the other hand, the conditions are so bad for the vast majority of people in Port-au-Prince, in particular the very poor, that they may welcome that new intervention. But if the intervention doesn't solve the problems in a rather short period of time, I think this may engender another form of opposition to the international forces.
Well, let's hope that this is a move in the positive direction for Haiti and its people. It's been far too long that they have been suffering. Robert, Fatton, hopefully the next time we talk, it'll be even more positive news.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.